Welcome, everyone. Good to be with you all today. So we'll begin with a bit of practice. You can settle into a posture that feels good for you, whether it's sitting in a chair or cushion or standing or lying down. Try to put your body at ease. And having settled into a comfortable posture, whatever that may be, bring a gentle smile to your face. See if you can associate this act of meditating with kindness, a kind gift to yourself, a chance to be still and rest. It's a relief to practice. By taking this time to practice, you've given yourself a gift. You've been kind and generous to yourself. Taking some time out of the challenges, circumstances of your life to be still and quiet for a little while. And by smiling just a little bit, we accept this gift from ourselves in the same way that we'd accept a wonderful gift from a dear friend. Thank you. It's so thoughtful of you to give me this gift. We can be moved and grateful in just the same way, even though we're giving ourselves this gift. It can take time to really appreciate it, to enjoy it. Just the simple act of smiling ignites that sequence of appreciation and gratitude, sparks in our heart that feeling of joy and happiness. See if you can feel that as you have a gentle smile on your face. Doesn't need to be a huge grin. Doesn't need to be a big deal. Just a small, gentle, easy smile. Feel what it's like to have that smile on your face. Might be neutral. Might be unpleasant, unfamiliar, uncomfortable. It might be pleasant, mildly pleasant, or very pleasant. It might be some mix of these things. Take a moment to see what it feels like to have this gentle, easy smile on your face. And if there's any pleasure or joy there, really enjoy it. Really soak it up. There may not be joy there, in which case, no problem. Not doing it wrong. And even if there is joy, there may be discomfort or neutral sensations as well. But if there's any hint of joy, or satisfaction, or happiness, or pleasure, even a small amount, totally enjoy it. Totally enjoy it. It's as if someone baked one very small, delicious cookie just for you. Just for you. It's a small cookie, but it's for you. It's a gift. And they made it for you with love. Really enjoy that small, tiny cookie fully. It's a good cookie. maintain this small, gentle, easy smile on your face. Notice what it's like to have that smile. And then if there's any joy or pleasure, even the tiniest amount, totally savor it. Fully enjoy it. Thank you, everyone. So today, to introduce ourselves, we'll go around and say our names, and then also why we're practicing. Love to hear why you're practicing. Doesn't have to be anything big, but just, why you came today, or why you practice meditation in general, or whether it's today or big picture. Would love to hear what's motivating you to practice. So I'm Tashin, and when I've been reflecting on this recently, I think I'll talk more about this, but I think secret here, one of the things that motivates me to practice is enjoyment and pleasure. Just feels really good to practice, and that's one of the things that keeps me practicing. Yeah. All right. Bob, would you like to share? Oh, you're still muted, friend.
Okay, certainly. I'm Bob. My wife Lynn is busy at the moment, and I enjoy joining you because it helps to clear my mind. Thank you for having us.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Bob. And Rich?
Yeah, hi everyone. That was a really wonderful experience. I ended up riding a horse in a meadow. and was quite enjoyable, especially since I'm dealing with some sciatic pain issues. Today, that was a very nice transfer. So I meditate to be more present. Absolutely. So thank you.
Thanks, Rich. And Gerge.
Hello everyone, I'm Gerge and I'm practicing today to cultivate compassion.
Wonderful. And Sam?
Hi, I'm Sam in California. I meditate because I am a somewhat neurotic person. I also have trouble with like attention, and meditation helps with both those things quite a lot.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Great. And Pam?
Hello, everyone. I'm Pam in Los Angeles, and I meditate for a lot of reasons, but I think the main one today is through the habit of it, that I like continuing it. And it's just easier to keep doing it than anything else. So thank you.
Great. Great. And Renee?
Hi, I'm Renee. I'm in Akron, Ohio, and I can't think of a better reason than for the benefit of the world we live in. It's it 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 can sound like you're just repeating something you heard, but it's what lives in here. It's I'm a better person because I meditate, and that helps everything be better.
Thank you, Renee. And Morgan?
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm in Vermont, and I meditate because it helps me to take really good care of my body.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Ethan? Maybe Ethan's unable to speak today, so no problem. Great. Well, so glad you're all here. Really glad to be in this community as always. Today is our last day here at Oak. We're moving out of the place that we've been in. That we'll be going to Maple over the weekend, tomorrow, flying out. And I was reflecting back on the last few weeks of being here. I think I've been out here in California for 7 or 8 weeks at this point, something like that. And the different chances that we've had to practice together. And I realized there's been a bit of a theme. Maybe some of you have noticed the theme, maybe not. It only occurred to me today, but that there's a big theme, which, I gave this instruction last week for those of you that were here. We're doing loving kindness or mettā practice. And I said our job was to be as happy as we could possibly be by the end of the sit. How happy could we possibly be, both individually and together, right? And we got pretty happy. We got pretty happy last week. It was a really delightful experience. I was happy to be sharing that with all of you. And if you didn't make it last week, you might enjoy the recording. It's up on our YouTube channel. We all got very happy for a couple hours. Or at least that was my experience. And if you were unhappy, I'd be curious to hear about that. Well, and first off, feel free to use that as an instruction for any of these sits or any of your meditation practices. Just how happy can I possibly get today when I'm practicing? Maybe it's just a little happier. Maybe it's a lot happier, but let me see how happy I can possibly get. And that's a good instruction for any technique that you do. It doesn't have to be loving kindness practice to have that attitude of, oh, wow, I'm going to see how happy I can possibly get. And certainly that'll be kind of the attitude that we'll take today, even though we'll be doing a different set of techniques. Although you're welcome, as always, to do any technique that you like, including loving kindness, even though we won't be exploring that today. But I think that's been a general theme of happiness, of pleasure, of joy, of comfort in the body, looking back on the different things that we've done together. So we did loving kindness practice. Certainly that was a theme there. The week before that, we were doing learning how to breathe into our bodies so that if there was energy, we could spread that, or if there was discomfort, we could breathe into that. We were learning and practicing how to breathe into different parts of our body. That's the same theme of, oh, if there's discomfort, how can I ease that? How can I massage it? Or if there is something that's joyful in the body, how can I spread it, right? Same idea, minimizing discomfort, increasing joy and satisfaction. And then the first sit that I led when I was out here was on the 4 postures. So on sitting and standing, walking, and lying down. We explored all of those 4 postures and saw how they're all valid ways to practice, all very valid ways to practice, and that they each have advantages and challenges, and that you learn to work with those. And really by experimenting with each of them, you learn, oh, this is really useful in this situation, or this is useful in this situation. And that's the same thing, different. It's easy to get sort of fixated on the posture of sitting in stillness on a cushion, maybe in full lotus or something like that. And that's wonderful. It's great if you can sit in full lotus or if you can sit still for a really long time, but that's not really what meditation's about intrinsically. It's, and by shifting these different postures, we can start to see what's true about meditation and mindfulness and these techniques in each of these postures, in each of these situations, in each of these configurations. We can start to have the same qualities of mindful awareness in different circumstances, in different situations. And one of the advantages of that, of course, is we can put our bodies at ease. We can put our bodies at ease. So is there a way to put my body in a position that feels both alert and comfortable? That might not be sitting. It might be lying down. It might be standing up. It might be going for a walk. Those are all totally valid. You can bring those same qualities of alertness and presence and relaxation into each of the postures. So it's always totally valid to lie down or to stand up, stretch your body, move in a way that feels good. And you can bring the same qualities of mindful awareness to each of those situations. So today we'll be sort of putting those pieces together and seeing if there's a way that we can attend to our bodies and our breathing with the same sort of perspective of how happy can I possibly be? How good can I make my body feel? How relaxed and comfortable and at ease can I be? How much enjoyment can I possibly have through paying attention to my body, through working with the breathing? We're going to put all of those pieces together. And this has really been a theme in my own practice, both in recent months and when I look back on it, really for the whole time that I've been practicing. There's a certain story I was thinking of sharing this week that feels relevant. And I was like, oh, maybe my dad will be here. And I'm not so sure if I want to share this story if my dad's here, but he's not here this week. So you all get to hear this story. And maybe he'll hear a recording later and I'll have a nice chat with him about it. If so, that'll be great. But you all get to hear this juicy story. I don't know, I've talked about this here and there at different points. Maybe some of you have heard this and maybe this will be a surprise for some of you. But when I was in high school, there was a period of about, 2 years where I basically did as many drugs as I possibly could. I just did all of the drugs I could get my hands on as much as I possibly could. And I really did that completely. I did it totally, completely, to the best of my ability. I did a great job. I did as many drugs as I could, as often as I could. And it's hard to remember how long that period was because I did it so completely. And actually, a really valuable period of my life, actually. I wouldn't recommend that particular path to anyone else, but eventually I learned a lot from that. And there's a few things I learned. One was that, altered states of consciousness are possible, right? There are different states that our mind can be in, and drugs will take you there. It's not the best way to get there. There are better ways to get there, but they will take you there. And it's, oh, I don't have to be in this waking consciousness all the time. There are different other states of mind. And then really towards the end, I realized, I'm doing this, taking all of these drugs because I'm not happy and I want to feel good, but the way that I'm doing it isn't working because I have to pay money to illegally purchase something that's a substance that I ingest that has negative side effects, and then I have to lie about it afterwards and be secretive and hide it. Yes, all of these huge costs to this route of finding pleasure and joy. Right? There was pleasure and joy there, definitely. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't, but there were real costs. There were real costs. It cost me financially. It cost me my body. My body had difficult challenges from the drugs. And then it also, I think, cost me ethically because I was being secretive and lying about it and hiding it, right? And certainly from a legal's perspective as well, I was using these substances that weren't legal. So that was a problem as well, related to, but not the same as the ethical issues. So I sort of had enough when I'd done this completely. I was like, I have to find a way to find this pleasure and joy without all of these negative side effects, right? So it took me a little while to figure that out, but I did figure it out. And that's why, I started meditating, basically, a big part of it. I think, I don't know how conscious that connection was in my mind, but I stopped doing drugs really the end of my senior year, beginning of my freshman year of college. And then I started meditating, partway through, at the end of my freshman year of college. So there's this like gap where I was like, I don't like this. I need to find something. And then I found meditation. And so really, I think this has been a question that's been motivating my own practice for the last decade, which is how can I have those altered states of consciousness? How can I have that joy and pleasure and happiness without all of those negative side effects, right? Without hurting myself or hurting other people in different ways, right? I really wanted that happiness or joy. I saw that I wasn't happy. I saw that life as I'd received it was dissatisfactory in a whole variety of ways. And I wanted something different, but drugs weren't really a long-term sustainable solution for me. And over time, meditation has really become a big part of that, of an answer to this question. And it's taken time. The main, I think, disadvantage of meditation, it's not unethical. It doesn't hurt your body. It doesn't hurt other people. It doesn't hurt you. But the main disadvantage is, I think, it takes time. It takes time to learn these skills, and that's why we practice. But over the last decade or so, I've learned and gotten to the point where I can sit down or not sit down, can stand up or lie down or go for a walk, really any position of the body, and I can make myself feel very good, very happy, really at will. And it feels great. I'm like, I did it. It took me 10 years, but I got there, I figured out how to be in the world, how to perceive, how to use my body, how to use my mind to make myself have that kind of happiness and pleasure without drugs. And it's great. It's different, it's not the same as, different drugs that I took, but it's actually better. It's actually better. And it's great. I'm really, really proud of myself looking back, I had this sort of subconscious challenge of how do I have the pleasure and joy that I get from drugs without drugs. And it took me time to figure it out, but I put in the work and sat a lot of retreats and had a lot of challenges, and it wasn't easy, but we did it. We got here. And that's a little bit of what I'm trying to share with these last sits, is how to do that, how to feel really good in your body and in your consciousness without all the things that we turn to. Maybe you haven't had the kind of problems that I had for a couple of years with drugs. Maybe there are different things, but we're all looking for happiness in our different ways, right? And some of the ways are wholesome and some aren't. And some are both wholesome and unwholesome. And meditation is a far more wholesome and sustainable route. It just takes time. There's skills that you have to learn, and you have to build them up in a different way. And so that's really what I've been trying to share over the last month or so, is different skills that have helped me to have this kind of happiness, right? Have this kind of pleasure and joy without, substances or money or people acting in a certain way or being in a certain situation. As long as you're alive and you're breathing, you can access these kinds of states and attune yourself to them. And that's a big relief. It's a really big relief because there are so many challenges in life. There's a lot of challenges, and different people have different challenges, different hand of cards that we're dealt. But there are definitely challenges and things that make it hard or difficult. And it's a relief to know, if I can just sit down for a few moments in stillness, I can make myself feel really good. That's a big relief, a really big relief, because we can trust that and we can depend on that in a way that you can't depend on drugs or other people or money or the weather or, anything that we look for, right? So that's what I'm hoping to share. And I want to circle back a little bit just to make this a little bit, make sort of a very specific point about how to find this happiness and pleasure. It's sort of a technical point, but it's very helpful. So, I've talked extensively this year and in previous years about suffering, a Buddhist doctrine, which says there is suffering and it's possible to resolve the suffering, right? And there's a lot of different ways to look at this, what suffering is and what it means to resolve it. But one aspect of it is just a component. It's not the whole thing, but is really how we use our perception and the way that we attend to things, right? So, last week we were doing loving kindness practice, and several people had some really wonderful shares about, discomfort that they had in their body or, emotional challenges that they were facing during this. And then they found ways to still access that love and that loving kindness and care and happiness, even with those challenges, right? It wasn't that the pain disappeared or the grief or anger or whatever difficult emotions were disappeared. It's that they found a way to creatively work with that and play with it and add other feelings, right? So there's a similar thing. I mean, if we just sort of sampled everyone here's bodies and their experience, probably everyone would have some amount of physical discomfort and some amount of emotional discomfort, right? Most people are probably going to have one or both of those in some degree. Maybe it's tiny, maybe it's huge. Maybe someone's just absolutely grieving in this group right now, right? Odds are any given time, 9, 10, 12 people meet, somebody's going to be having a really hard time, right? And maybe there's just a little bit of discomfort, right? Like, I don't know, right now, I don't know, my leg is like very slightly itchy, okay? Very, very minor discomfort, but it's there, right? I can feel that itch or that discomfort. And so we can just assume that in our experience, there's going to be some pleasure and some pain at any given time, right? Maybe it's a different degree or amount or kind, right? But we just assume going into this today, there's going to be some pleasure and some pain. That's sort of our axiom, our starting point. We're going to assume that somewhere in our body, in our experience, there's some pleasure and some pain, right? Different amounts, different kinds, but we assume that somewhere there's pleasure and somewhere there's pain, right? And so then the question becomes, what are we going to pay attention to? What are we going to pay attention to? The mind is very easily drawn towards anything that's painful or negative or uncomfortable, right? The tendency of mine is go straight to the things that are uncomfortable or challenging. Maybe it's physical pain in the body. Maybe it's an emotional pain. Maybe it's something that we're confused about or just ruminating about, right? We can get stuck on those aspects of our experience and just glom onto them, right? So the first thing we're going to do is try to shift without pushing that away. There's still going to be the physical pain, the emotional pain, mental confusion, all of that. That's totally okay. You're not doing this exercise wrong if that's present for you. But instead, we're going to shift our attention to anything that's pleasant, Okay, we're not pushing away the things that are negative, but we're going to zoom in on, focus on, pay attention to the parts that are pleasant, even if it's tiny, right? So this is the small cookie again, right? We assume that somewhere in our body, there's a small cookie waiting for us to be enjoyed, okay? Maybe it's huge. If you have a huge amounts of pleasure in your body, don't let me stop you. But we just assume that somewhere there's at least a small cookie waiting for us, right? That doesn't mean there isn't pain or emotional grief or challenges or mental confusion, but somewhere there's also this very pleasant, maybe tiny cookie waiting for us, right? So then we're going to zoom in on that. We're going to say, where is the pleasure? Where is the bliss? Where is the relaxation? We said at the beginning, there's some pain and some pleasure somewhere in my experience. So we're going to find the pleasure. Maybe it's small, maybe it's huge, maybe it's this kind, maybe it's that kind, but we're going to find it, right? We're going to find that cookie and we're going to eat it, okay? And then the question becomes, how do we eat it, right? Do we just gobble it up and then swallow and say, oh, that was a tiny cookie, I didn't like it, make me another cookie? Or do we really savor it? Even though it's a tiny cookie, do we really enjoy it and savor it and fully enjoy it, right? So there's what the thing is, and then there's how we attend to it, right? So we attend to the pleasure rather than the pain. Instead of focusing on the pain, we focus on the pleasure. And then whatever the amount is, whatever the kind is, maybe it's a small amount of relaxation, we just totally enjoy it. We just go hog wild enjoying that tiny bit of relaxation, right? And here's the really weird thing. It turns out that if you do this, if you attend to pleasant sensations, especially in the body, even tiny ones, they grow. They grow. It's wild. It doesn't have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. Maybe your experience will be totally different this, but at least in my experience, if I pay attention to even a small amount of, say, relaxation or vibration or tingling or pleasure, any of these kinds of sensations, if you stay with it and you really enjoy it and you just tend to it, you're just noticing it again and again, in the same way that you would say, notice the breath or any other meditation space, but you're focusing on the pleasure, tiny cookie, you're really going to enjoy it. It grows. It becomes a bigger cookie and then a bigger cookie and then an even bigger cookie. And suddenly it's your whole body. Suddenly it's your whole body is this amazing cookie that's just delightful and gooey, and the chocolate chips and the oatmeal. And oh man, you can really enjoy the cookie because it's big and you're really enjoying it. Okay. It is wild. There's no reason that it has to be this way. Nobody promised us this, and yet it is this way. So we're going to do this an experiment and see if we can reproduce these same results, which is if I focus on the pleasure rather than pain, there's still pain, there's still challenge, we're not saying that's bad, but we're just going to focus on the pleasure. And if I stay with it, even if it's tiny, even if it's small, if I just really enjoy it, really let myself enjoy it, does it grow? Does it grow? Does it grow? It may or may not, but that's been my experience when I've practiced this over and over, tuning to the pleasurable sensations and just really enjoying them. Over time, they'll grow, and they grow non-linearly, right? So it's not like it's small, and poof, it gets really big. Just even suddenly, just this big jump, right? So you just stay with it. If it's small, it's no problem. Not doing it wrong. So in the same way, really, as last week, it's the same sort of thing. We're doing a different technique. We're not going to be doing the loving kindness practice, but we're going to, how happy can we possibly be? How happy can we possibly be? We acknowledge, yes, there's some discomfort in our body, in our experience at all times. It's just a given. This is one of the three characteristics, right? From a Buddhist perspective, all sense phenomena always have some dissatisfactoriness in them, even pleasant, enjoyable sensations. It's just, we just know, yes, there's going to be some discomfort, some dissatisfaction in our experience. Okay, we accept that. But can we find things like relaxation and pleasure and, enjoyable undulating sensations in the body, right? Is there any of that? And if so, can I really, 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 really enjoy it? And is it possible to be more happy than I expected just from attuning to a small amount of, say, relaxation in your left thigh, right? Weirdly specific location, small amount. It's just relaxation. It would be so easy to just say, oh, that's just, like a little bit of relaxation in this part of my body. That's not a big deal. This is totally normal. And then throw the cookie away in the same way as if someone had given us a cookie and we're just like, oh, that's a tiny cookie. I don't want that. But they made it with love, right? So we're going to really accept it. We're going to really enjoy it. And then we might find that the cookie magically grows. It's wild. It's wild when this happens. It's like, what? The cookie became a really big cookie. Wow, that's a really big cookie that you've got there for me. And that comes because we really enjoy it. We really enjoy it. And this is the shift. This is the shift. We don't push away the discomfort. We don't push away the dissatisfactoriness, but we turn our attention from the things that are unpleasant and challenging to the things that are pleasant. And then we just really give ourselves permission to enjoy them fully, really enjoy them fully. And that already is the resolution to suffering, right? Because it's not that we make the bad stuff go away, but we don't get fixated on it. We remove the fixation of our attention from it to something that's more enjoyable. That's already a big relief. And then we really enjoy the thing that's enjoyable, even though it's small, even though it's tiny. We just fully give ourselves permission. I'm going to really enjoy this tiny bit of relaxation. Just how much can I possibly soak it up? And there's actually really no limit to how much you can enjoy it if you cultivate the ability to stay with it, to focus on it, to really soak it up. There's no limit, right? So there's the amount of pleasure that the thing itself has, and then there's the amount of pleasure that we can find from the way that we pay attention to it. Those are actually different things, right? There might not be an increase in the joy itself, but we can find more and more satisfaction in the way that we attend to it, right? It can become more and more interesting, more and more engaging. We can enjoy the amount of pleasure that's there even more. It's like the difference between someone giving us this small, tiny cookie and we just eat it unthinkingly, swallow it, we're done, eat it as quickly as possible, or we really savor that cookie and we eat it as slowly as we can. We really enjoy it and taste the different textures and the feelings. Even though it's tiny, it's still a tiny cookie. We really, really soak it up and really enjoy it. So that's the experiment for today. Again, you're not doing this wrong if there's challenging parts of your experience, pain, emotional discomfort, mental confusion, no problem. That's a given. We assume that's there, right? But we're going to find any pleasure we can, and then we're going to soak it up. How much can we possibly enjoy it? And see, in the same way, how happy can we possibly be just from paying attention to our bodies in this way? And we're going to give ourselves permission to enjoy it as much as we possibly can. So that's the experiment for today. We'll give it a try for about 45 minutes, and then we'll have a conversation about it afterwards. So before we get started, let's just take a quick stretch break, make your bodies feel good. That'll really help with this, and then come back in a couple of minutes and we'll give it a try. And when you're ready, you can come back. Yeah, that's great, Pam. Thanks for taking care of your body. Perfect. All right. So let's all follow Pam's lead and find a position for your body that feels good for you right now. Maybe it's sitting in a cushion or a chair. Maybe it's lying down or standing or walking. All totally valid, all 4 postures. Really take time to find a configuration of your body that feels good for you right now. Very important. Set yourself up for success here. Whatever position of your body that you're in, whether it's sitting or standing, laying down or walking, see if you can find relaxation. If there's any muscular tension in your body, see if you can allow that to let go. Relax as fully and deeply as you can at this time. We're really emphasizing having a comfortable, relaxed posture, whatever that may be. Relax your body. In this exercise, we're going to see how much pleasure and satisfaction we can possibly find. But let's begin by acknowledging any discomfort or sense of unease that may be present. We're not pushing that away. We want to acknowledge it. So if there's any physical discomfort or emotional pain or mental confusion, see if you can acknowledge that. You can even speak to it in your mind if you like, if that's helpful. You can say, yeah, I really do feel that pain in my leg right now. I see you, pain. Or yeah, I really feel that grief in my heart about that thing that's been hurting. I see that. Or yeah, my mind is really confused and upset right now about the situation I'm in. If there's any of that discomfort, sense of unease in our experience, really acknowledge that. We don't want to push that away in this exercise. Say, I see you. I know you're suffering. I'm really sorry. I know how much it hurts. And if it's helpful to talk to that discomfort or pain, whatever that challenging aspect of your experience is, see if you can ask it for permission to set it aside for a little while. You could say, you know, I can see how much you're hurting, but I'm going to do an exercise now where I try to see how happy I can possibly be. Would it be okay if I did that for a little while? I'll come back to you. It may feel forced or contrived to you, and if so, no problem. You can just acknowledge any discomfort that might be present in your experience of any kind. Or you might try talking to it, just asking it for permission to step aside for a little bit. Often we try to push away our discomfort or challenge. We're taking the opposite approach here. We're going to acknowledge it and ask it for permission to just step aside for a little bit. We're actually going to come back to it. We're going to come back to it. So take that time to acknowledge any discomfort or challenge. And if you like, ask its permission to step aside for a little while. Whenever you feel ready, we ease our way into this happiness by once again bringing a gentle smile to our face. We allow our physical body to be relaxed and comfortable to whatever extent is possible. Here we're priming our emotional body for happiness by acknowledging discomfort and bringing a gentle smile to our face. Again, it doesn't have to be a huge grin. Just a gentle, easy smile on the face primes us for this kind of happiness. We want to see if we can maintain this through the whole sit. A relaxed physical body that's comfortable, and a gentle, easy smile on our face. It's easing our way towards emotional happiness. These two things, relaxation in the body and a gentle, easy smile, they're both small, tiny, delicious cookies. And we can enjoy them quite a bit. Quite a bit. to really take the time to give yourself those cookies, to serve them to yourself as a gift, to find relaxation in the body and happiness through a small, gentle, easy smile on the face. If at any time you find that your body has become tight, you can relax it again, either by relaxing a particular muscle or even by changing postures entirely. And if any time you find that your smile has faded, that you've stopped having this gentle, easy smile on your face, you can bring it back. You can bring it back. Really try to maintain those two things as activities in the background through this whole sit of having your body be relaxed, having a gentle, easy smile on your face. And without losing those qualities, bring attention to your breathing. You can feel the breathing in the abdominal area. You can see if there's a way to breathe that feels good right now. That encourages the sense of relaxation and happiness. Maybe it's a long, slow breath. Or a quicker breath. Many different kinds of breathing. See if you can find one that feels good for you right now. Really give yourself permission to make a change to the breathing. To breathe in a different way so that you feel happier, so that there's more enjoyment and relaxation. See if you can find a way of breathing that makes you feel even more happiness and relaxation. If you're not sure how to do that, you can know that just by breathing into the abdominal area, you're already breathing in a healthier way. It's better for your body and also for your state of mind. Generally, nasal breathing is also healthier and happier as well. And you may find that slowing down the breath, even just a little bit of a slower breath, helps your body to relax. Sometimes faster breathing can also be good, so if you're finding that, that's no problem. Generally, if we ease towards slow abdominal, nasal breathing, that will really encourage this sense of relaxation in the body. In any case, try to find a way of breathing that feels good for you right now. I want to really continue to maintain these qualities of relaxation and comfort in the body, of a gentle, easy happiness that comes from smiling. Also breathing in a way that feels good to us from moment to moment. And even as we maintain those things, we're going to turn our attention towards the qualities of enjoyment and pleasure, satisfaction in our experience. It's as if we're driving on a long road in the evening and there's a beautiful sunset. We're still driving, but we can take a moment to enjoy the beautiful sunset, glancing at it, enjoying it. In the same way, we're still going to be relaxed in the body, having this gentle, easy smile on our face, and maintaining a way of breathing that feels good to us in our bodies. We're going to start to pay attention to any qualities of enjoyment in our experience. So really look for that pleasure. Assume that there is some pleasure in your experience right now and look for it. Maybe it's the relaxation in the body or a sense of happiness, maybe around the smile. Maybe there's calm in the body from the breathing, or a sense of energy, aliveness, vitality. Perhaps pleasant, tingling, undulating, wavy sensations of flow in the body. If you assume that there is some pleasure in your experience right now, where is it? Look for it. Look for it. Look for these qualities of enjoyment, happiness, relaxation, satisfaction. And if you find them, really soak them in. Really enjoy them, no matter how small they may be. Maybe there's a place where your body meets the ground or a chair. There's some relaxation there. If so, enjoy that. Really enjoy it. Or maybe there's a muscle that's often tight, that's relaxed right now. If so, enjoy that. Maybe there's energy in the body, flowing sensations. Those can feel good. So enjoy that. Maybe smiling is bringing you some happiness, some joy, emotional happiness. If so, really enjoy that. Really enjoy it. Maybe the simple act of being still is calming, is a relief. So enjoy that. Really look in your experience for anything that might be enjoyable, even a small amount of enjoyment, pleasure, satisfaction. And then soak it up. Totally savor it. Whatever particular quality it is, whatever amount it is, see if you can enjoy it fully. Once you find this quality that's enjoyable or pleasant, whatever it may be, see if you can stay on that with your attention in the same way that you would stay right on the breathing if you were following the breath. Still want to have an awareness of the rest of your experience, and especially any other aspects of your experience that are pleasant. But stay right on that feeling of pleasure or joy or relaxation or happiness, whatever it may be, whatever you've chosen, and stay right with it. Stay right with it. It's part of how you enjoy it is by staying with it. As if you're having a delightful conversation with a friend that you love. You're so rapt with attention, so curious about what they're saying. Stay right with it. Continue to stay relaxed in your body. Keep this gentle, easy smile on your face. Breathe in a way that feels good. Totally enjoy whatever you're enjoying. Stay right with it and savor it. Anytime your body becomes uncomfortable or tight, you can relax it or shift postures. If you lose the gentle, easy smile, you can bring it up again. If your breathing becomes uncomfortable, you can shift it. Otherwise, stay with some aspect of your experience that's pleasant or enjoyable, satisfactory. Stay right with it. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same focus space all of the time. Could be a sense of relaxation here for a few minutes, and then a sense of happiness over there for a few minutes. Sense of energy here, some delight over there. But from moment to moment, stay with some aspect of your experience that's enjoyable or satisfactory, and savor it as much as you possibly can. As you've stayed with this satisfaction, joy, pleasure, whatever it may have been that you've been attending to, note to yourself how happy you've become by doing this exercise. Have you become any happier? Maybe not. If not, no problem. If you have, notice how much happier you've become. Maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's a lot. Really make note of that. If I attend to this particular aspect of my experience for a little while, I can become this much happier. Maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's a lot. See if you can notice that. Reflect it to yourself. If there is a sense of happiness, without losing that, see if you can return to, check in on any sense of discomfort or unease or dissatisfaction that you noticed at the beginning of the sit. It's as if there's a friend that we know is having a hard time. So we call them up and say, "How are you doing now? How are you doing? I know that this part of my body was hurting a little bit, or I was really feeling some grief. I was really confused. How is that now? Really appreciate that you gave me some time to try and be happy. How have you been while I've been away?" And this, again, this sort of conversational style may or may not feel right for you. But see if you can check in with any negative or dissatisfactory aspects of your experience, regardless of how you do that. From this place of happiness, what's it like to check in with difficult parts of our experience? Maybe they're the same. Maybe they're worse. But maybe it's not so bad now. Maybe it's shifted in some way. Makes it easier. Maybe it's disappeared entirely. In any case, check in with those difficult parts of our experience. All right. Very good. Nice work, everyone. Would love to hear any reports that you may have about what that was like for you, or any questions about the practice or the talk, or anything at all that you'd like to share. It's a time for discussion. Feel free to unmute yourself and speak at any time.
So Tashin, I'm curious, will that story be a surprise to your dad when he hears it?
Good question. I don't know if he'll hear the recording or not. So
If he'd been on this call, would it have been a surprise to him?
Yes and no. Probably somewhat surprising, but not that surprising. Yeah, probably some of it would have been a surprise.
Yeah. That's just curiosity, having a Joshin who had his own journey through whatever was going on and how much his parents may or may not have known.
Sure.
Kind of seeing it from that.
Definitely.
I am taking away from this this series and this final set with you so much appreciation for you, and I will remember savor the tiny cookie. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. And at one point I wrote down here for you, okay, Alice, because there you were in Wonderland with the tiny cookie that was growing exponentially. Really, really playful and enjoyable, and such a reminder that it's there. It's there, in the same way as we're not saying whatever discomfort there is, whatever literal pain in the neck might be there. We're not saying it's not there, but we also can look at the other aspect. It's there. So thank you. Thank you for holding this community in this way. And your kindness and your gentle guidance.
You're so welcome, Renee.
I can go. Thank you for that. That was really awesome. Definitely touched into definitely a lot of pleasure and happiness there. So I'm curious, like, how would you apply this maybe to, let's say you're doing like challenging work on the computer? I would say that's probably the time when I feel the most suffering. I'm curious, like, how you might apply it in that type of circumstance.
Great question. Can you say a little bit about what the suffering tends to be like when you're at the computer? Just that would be helpful for me.
Yeah, sure. So today, for instance, I was doing some linear algebra homework and just hard math problems that I was like, oh, I don't know how to solve this, and kind of beating myself up about it, and just I had to like go look for solutions online and stuff like that instead of being able to figure them out myself and things like that. And then I guess for actual work, it's more like running into some roadblock in terms of some goal that I'm trying to accomplish, and it's like, wow, this is just really challenging, and I don't know how to move forward and things like that.
Right. Well, I definitely run into very similar things myself frequently. So yeah, it's helpful to have a little clarity of what that's like for you. It sounds like those situations when you're at the computer tend to have some maybe difficult emotions come up and challenging thoughts. And then, another aspect of it may be as well that you didn't explicitly mention, but I think is worth mentioning is often when we do have these difficult emotions or challenging thoughts, being at the computer in particular, but certainly other settings as well, we're physically in the same position for a while, and it's easy for us to sort of stew in those in that discomfort, whatever it may be, and that can grow exponentially as well, right? In the same way that the pleasure and joy can grow, the pain and emotional challenge can grow as well. And so sometimes when we're at a computer for a while, that those aspects of our experience, even if they're small, can grow quite a bit. So that's worth mentioning. But I'd say there's really so there's a lot of things you can do with this, a lot of different strategies, and maybe I'll mention a few. But in general, there's two categories that you can do, and you can do both of them. So one would be to work with or decrease the difficult stuff, the emotions, the thoughts, the feelings in your body, that kind of thing, or you can increase good stuff. So both of those are valid approaches, and you may even want to do both of them, but they're sort of different strategies. So for decreasing the bad stuff, one would be just shaking your body out. Really helps a lot, just getting up from the computer and moving around a little bit, getting some fresh air. I get similar things sometimes in like difficult conversations with people. Sometimes I find talking to people challenging for a variety of reasons, and just moving around and getting outside and shaking my body out, or it doesn't have to be literally shaking, but just shifting the body in some way feels good. And then there's also a whole host of strategies you can take for working with the difficult thoughts and emotions. You can feel them, feel what it actually feels like in your body. Probably there's an emotional component that's located somewhere in your body, so you can feel that and find it and feel it fully. You can breathe into it. You can also work with the thoughts of like listening to what's there and maybe even talking to them. That can be very helpful. There's whole strategies of like, maybe you're subconsciously having a thought like, oh, I'm not very good at this or something. I have a thought that comes up a lot of like, I can't do this, whatever it is. It's like, I can't this, I can't that. And you can just notice that and maybe even talk to it and see what it has to say to you. But those are all sort of, those all work, and they work really well, but there's a risk with sort of focusing on the negative that you can get sort of sucked into it. So I'd almost suggest increasing the positive stuff. So, it sounds like you were able to connect to a sense of happiness and pleasure through this exercise. So you could always take 5 minutes to do the same kind of exercise, take the same sort of approach, and just put the math or the work aside and come back to your breathing and feeling your body. And whatever way you were able to connect to the pleasure and happiness today, you can do that same strategy. Or, last week we did loving kindness practice. So that's a great approach as well. Sending yourself loving kindness, directing happiness towards yourself or other people. They're both good, but oh, it's okay that it's hard right now. I love you. You'll get through this. That kind of mental talk might work for me in that situation, or an image of myself being happy and finding positive feelings in the body, or directing it out towards someone else, someone that you love or care for, and just wishing that they'd be happy, increasing a sense of positivity and happiness. It's almost like in the same way that we weren't really ignoring or like repressing difficult emotions or pain in the body, we were just attuning to pleasure and happiness. It's almost like if you have a huge pool and there's like a drop of like poison, just a few drops of poison in this huge pool, right? The poison is still a drop here or there, but there's just so much water, it's a wash, right? So if you could decrease the poison that's in your experience, that's a totally valid experience. Find a way of working with the poison that decreases it, or you can just add some water to the situation, add some kind of positivity, happiness, and there's a lot of strategies for doing that, you know, breathing and loving kindness and some others as well. You know, just going and doing something fun for a while, taking a break, totally valid strategy, right? If there's something fun that you like to do and you can give yourself a break. So really encourage being playful with and finding what works for you. And, you know, yeah, there's a lot of different approaches you can take. And in general, they sort of fall into decreasing the negative stuff, increasing the good stuff. And either or both of those should really help a lot.
Cool. You've given lots of tools. Appreciate it. Love the analogy.
Great. Great. Any other questions or comments or reports?
I can report. I was surprised. I took this little walk 2 blocks up to the park and found that I got a lot of pleasure from walking on grass.
Mm-hmm.
Like it rained a couple of days ago, so the grass was pliant, and I liked that. And then I had to walk 2 blocks home, so I focused on something else. And I have a little patch of grass by my front door. So I spent the last 10 minutes so happy walking on the little patch of grass by my front door. And even though I was still hurting and emotionally and physically, there it was. I didn't even have to walk 2 blocks to the park. So this was great. And I took my shoes off to see if my feet wanted to feel it. But no, it was my feet in the socks in the shoes that really liked it. And to notice that. And cookies are kind of off my plan. They're kind of my drug. So the little knoll of grass became my little cookie. So thank you so much for that. Everything you've done for us. I wish you guys the best.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful report, Pam. Really want to highlight there, just so you don't miss it. This might already be obvious to you, but you know, those patches of grass, both in your backyard and in the park down the street, those have both been there for a while, right? They've been there and they're not going away. But the thing that changed today, you know, besides taking your socks and shoes off, is the way that you're paying attention to that, right? You went out there, same grass, but you're paying attention to it in a different way. And so, you know, I want to make that shift is always available, whether you're near the grass or not, or it's day or night. The shift of, oh, how am I paying attention to this? That's present with the grass, with your physical body, any aspect of your experience. And that's where the delight and joy came from. And that's you know, even if the park got bulldozed or something, which we humans tend to do, that shift would still be there for you. So don't miss that, and really glad you were able to connect to it. Yeah.
So there's a pattern that I have noticed both this time and other times too, with similar exercises. And this time I managed to kind of move past the pattern, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about it, which is, so there's the tiny cookie, and then it does tend to grow when you let it, or when you pay attention to it. But then I often notice that as the cookie starts growing, suddenly there's this rush of fear that shows up. And I guess it's interesting. Why is it scary for the cookie to grow? Which I have some guesses, but in any case, I think this time what helped me move past it was just, I guess you could say it was luck, that at the time something was very interesting about the breath. So somehow there was no room for the fear to pop up. And it was great. But yeah, I was wondering if you have any comments on how to handle this pattern.
Yeah, that's a great reflection. Definitely very normal for this kind of fear to come up. And can you just clarify what was the cookie in this case? Was it the breath, or what quality of your experience were you paying attention to that you were able to connect to and even grew?
Yeah, the cookie. So I think in the case where I managed to move past it, it was just the breath itself.
Great.
Other times there was other things like I like the way my hands touch as I sit, and I think I think maybe both of them were sort of in my field of attention, both the sensation of my hands and something about the breath that was interesting.
Great. Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, it turns out it's actually not so important what we focus on with this kind of exercise. Like, it could be this quality or that quality, or this region of our body or that region of our body, or this aspect of our experience or that aspect of our experience. But we want to, well, one, be clear about what we're attending to, and then also just really bathe in it, really soak it up. So helpful to know what you're working with. And I think the approach you took of it sounds like you're kind of staying with the breathing, and then you're also aware of the feeling of your hands, which feels quite nice. Definitely also really normal. The parts where our limbs touch our legs and are just relaxed, that feels really wonderful. And that's a great approach in general, is like have something sort of, again, at the focus of our experience in the foreground that we're putting our attention on. And then you're also aware of just anything that's pleasant and enjoyable, as much of that as possible. So happiness, relaxation, vibratory sensations, relief, any aspect of your experience that's positive, all you have awareness of that as well in the background, and you're enjoying that as well, right? I don't know, it's like you're eating a cookie and enjoying that while in the company of a good friend, right? I don't know, why not have both, right? So you want as much of that as possible. So I just mentioned that because both for you, I think it's important to reflect that, but also in general, to know it's not actually so important what you pay attention to, just how you pay attention to it. And you want to keep as much of that in your experience as you can. So in terms of the fear, first off, it's very normal, very normal. For me, it always feels like I'm going to die when I encounter this fear. For some reason, it feels like if I just keep listening to a sound, or just keep staying with my breath, or, that suddenly I'm going to die, right? And now that we're talking about it, we can just see it doesn't really make sense, right? The first time I experienced this, I was focusing on the sound of a heater, and it felt like if I just kept listening to that heater, I was going to die. Like, it really felt like that. And then when you say it, it's like, okay, well, that's not true. Listening to a heater is not going to kill me, right? So we can just know logically that the fear doesn't actually really have a basis, but it's also immediately an emotionally challenged. So that doesn't only go so far. So, but it helps to know just logically, this is not actually going to kill me. There's no real reason to be afraid, right? It makes sense. It's an emotional experience, but it could be a fear that actually has some basis that, like, I don't know, it makes sense to be afraid of people hitting you, right? If someone was going to hit you, that's a good thing to be afraid of. There's signal there, and you want to respond appropriately so that you don't get hit, so you're not physically damaged. And so we want to know, in this case, am I safe or not? And it turns out with meditation, you're actually safe. And it doesn't feel like that. So it's good to know you're safe. Good to know that logically, but then, yeah, it is ultimately an emotional thing. So one, yeah, getting totally engrossed in the breath that's a great strategy. That it's good that that worked for you, because it does work. The way that I've heard you talk about this to me is like you call its bluff. You say, like, okay, if I keep focusing on my breath, you say you're going to kill me if I keep following my breath. Like, all right, I'm just going to keep following my breath. You call its bluff. And that's the strategy you sort of took today. And that does work, is you just keep going, right? I think, similar to what we're talking about with Ethan, the other thing that I'd mention is to really get clarity on what this fear is like, right? So probably there's a somatic component of, like, say in your stomach, there's like a sensation of fear or something, right? Or maybe there's tightness in your arms, or some other aspect that in your body you're feeling afraid. And then there may or may not be a thought associated with it, maybe talk or an image. You could have some image, right? For me, I think when I was listening to that heater way back when, there was some, like, maybe in my stomach, there was some fear and then some tightness in the body. And maybe my breathing was changing as well, like kind of like tightening up with the breath, right? And there's a somatic component. And again, if you sort of break it down into what the different aspects are, you can see, oh, this isn't that bad. There's a little bit of fear over here and there's some tightness over there. And oh yeah, my breathing's a little bit contracted right now, but it's not so bad. Not so bad. Oh, and there's a little thought that says, I'm going to die. This is going to kill me if I keep going, And, if you break it down, you can see, oh, this isn't, there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and it's not so bad. It's just typically when we are emotionally challenged, the actual somatic experience of a difficult emotion, it's intense, it feels terrible, but it's actually quite physically small, like it may not be that big. I often have like a feeling like right in my heart that's like, like a little marble, and it feels terrible. It feels terrible. It's like just a lot of grief, and it's also tiny. It's like spatially tiny, right? And just connecting to where it is, what it is, helps make the experience less challenging. So becoming clear what the aspects are. Is it bodily? Is it mental? Is it affecting my breathing? Is there tightness in the body? What's this like? And then just getting clear. What's that like? Is it big? Is it small? Is it changing? So that's also a really good strategy, because typically if you take that strategy, you see this isn't that bad. There's a small little bit of fear in my stomach, and I'm a little bit tight, and my breathing's changing. And there's a thought in my head that says, if I keep doing this, it's going to kill me. But the thought is not true, and it's not that big, and I can just focus on the breath and keep going. So those are a few strategies, but you'll have to find what works for you. And totally normal. You're not going to die. It won't kill you. And you'll just have to kind of find your own way through it. And it does shift in time, especially as you start to prove yourself one way or the other that it doesn't kill you, or it's not actually going to hurt you. Actually, things typically on the other side of this sort of thing, things actually get a lot better. It's like, whoa, there's some joy that I was not letting myself feel, that if I get through this, there's actually a tremendous amount of joy that I can feel. It's uncomfortable at first. Actually, often these kinds of pleasure or happiness are very uncomfortable at first, and then over time the enjoyment goes up, and the intensity actually goes down. So it's more enjoyable and less intense, but it's uncomfortable to start with. And that's actually, I think, the real root of the fear is a real sense that this will be uncomfortable, and there is discomfort there. So it's not, even though it's irrational in that it's not going to kill you, it is rational in that it actually is uncomfortable. And so we have to kind of ease our way into it and say, oh, it's going to be okay. It is uncomfortable, but that'll change in time. And actually, it's quite joyful and pleasant. And this is really nice, actually. Even though it's a little uncomfortable, it's also really nice. And over time, I'll learn how to feel this and experience this in a way that's not overwhelming and terrible. And yeah, it definitely isn't going to kill me. Yeah.
The other thought that shows up besides it's going to kill me, which I think is worth pointing out, is that how am I going to pay for having had this pleasure, which also is, I think it's not a rational thing, but it's kind of an interesting, I think it's not a unique, or I've encountered people having this mentality too, that for any kind of pleasure one has, one will have to sort of pay the cost. Yeah, I think I thought it would be helpful to say that that thought exists as well. And as far as I can tell, it's not well founded, but it's there.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, in our society, typically we the pleasures and happiness that we have come at some monetary expense. And this is one that doesn't depend on that. You know, it depends on how you pay attention to, say, your breathing or relaxation in your body or whatever it is, energy flow, right? A sense of happiness around the smile, even just that small bit of happiness. If you just stay with it right here, it's just boom, you know, and that it actually does not depend on money. It actually doesn't. So that's good to know, that there's a form of happiness that's great that does not depend on money. It's wonderful. I will bring up, you know, I was actually planning to mention this anyway, but although it does not depend on money, you are always welcome to donate to this community space. We offer these teachings for free, but if you found it helpful, it's always wonderful to make a donation. You can do that at monasticacademy.org/donate. But this is free of charge because these teachings are free. You know, this kind of happiness does not actually depend on money. So that's a kind of happiness that can actually transform the world, right? When we really find this happiness and we see this is really good and it doesn't kill me and it doesn't have all the negative side effects that drugs and all these other things do, that totally shifts things. For me, it's like, oh my goodness, there are forms of happiness that don't depend on money or doing something unethical or hurting myself or other people. That's incredible. That actually changes the world. That changes the world. The way we experience the world, the way we participate in the world, the way we show up, changes everything. So it's important, I think, actually, that those teachings be free, that those kinds of teachings be free, because it doesn't depend on money. And in this society that we live in, money is useful. And so if you've found it useful, you can say thank you by donating, but it's not required. And it's good to know that it's not required. It's really good to know that it's not required, because that's what changes the world. So yes.
Just to clarify quickly, I didn't mean pay for it in a monetary sense. I meant in like a sense that maybe there will be a suffering to offset this pleasure. That sort of the total amount that you get is fixed.
Right. Yeah. As far as I can tell, the main downside of this form of happiness is that you want to meditate more. Yeah. That you decide you want to spend more time meditating, which means you spend less time doing other things. But, you know, it doesn't have withdrawal. It doesn't have, you know, it's not illegal. It doesn't have ethical consequences as far as I can tell. In fact, you just get happier, more enjoyable to be around, less irritable. You know, generally well-being goes up. Yeah, no withdrawal, no legal problems. You don't have to lie about it. You can just say, man, I was following the breath. It was great, really good, great experience. So, yeah, as far as I can tell, no real downsides. If you find some, let me know. But yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's wonderful to practice with you. And as always, if you have any feedback or questions, you can email me at tashin@monasticacademy.org. Tashin, Tassin. Would really love to hear from you if you have feedback or questions or comments. Really helpful to me. And hope you have a great rest of your day. And of course, as I mentioned last week, this will be the last Oak Sit for a while, but we will resume at some point, and you'll hear about that for sure when we're resuming. So, yeah. All right,
Thanks,
everyone. Be well.